Hi everyone, Amber here from Majestic. Welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to share with you today Cotton Cuts Fall 2025 Undersea Puzzle Mystery Quilt. I am sewing up a large Davy Jones Locker. If you didn't know already, this was my first choice and I'm so excited to be sewing this up. So thank you again to Cotton Cuts for allowing me to be an ambassador. I enjoy getting my package each month and it's just such a fun process. I highly recommend joining the Cotton Cuts Facebook group, posting your photos. You can find so much helpful information there, and you'll definitely find ambassadors or other people sewing up your colorway. So I am sewing up a large Davy Jones. This month there are 2 blocks. This one is 1A, and you'll have 2 of these. And then this one is 1B, and you'll also have 2 of these. So in my tutorials, I walk you through step by step. I don't speed them up. It's perfect for people who kind of like want to sew along with me. If you're not sewing Davy Jones, you could even follow along and just make sure that you're grabbing your correct colors, because I try to say the fabric letter as often as I can. And especially for this first video, I have made it very beginner friendly. So if you've never quilted before, I've included a lot of tips and tricks, and I hope that you find it helpful. I've also included timestamps so you can jump ahead to the section that you need, whether it is 1A or 1B. And as always, if you have not signed up for the Puzzle Mystery Quilt, it is still open for monthly deliveries. I will put the link in the description. You can sign up. If you use the code AMBERC, you'll get a bonus gift your first month. So I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. Let me know in the comments which colorway you're sewing up, and I hope you enjoy the journey. All right, so I have everything here that I need for my first clue. I have my color card. So on the back here, it's going to show me each of the fabrics. I always keep this near me so that way I can reference it and don't accidentally switch the fabrics up. It's so easy to do. So I always have this. I have printed out my clue. If you have got the prepaid, you can print yours out. If you're doing monthly, it should ship in the packet each month for you. I'll go over this a little bit more in detail in a second. So I also have my clue 1 here, and if you open it up, it has all the pieces that you need, but Cotton Cuts always includes a gift on the first month. And so the gift for the prepaid, I'm not sure if it's the same for the monthly, is this cute little notepad. So that's really exciting. I'm gonna put this to the side. This is helpful. I take notes a lot, especially if I'm sewing bags or designing patterns. So that's a great little gift. The next thing that I do is in this clue here, you can see it shows all your different pieces. I try to lay out my fabric pieces just like that. So that way I'm grabbing them and they're all kind of like in this order. It's just easier for me how my brain works. So if we compare our fabrics with this layout, so we should have 12 small A triangles. And so you can see this print here has 2 fabrics that are similar, one with the ravens and then one that has the pumpkins and ghosts and such. This is where you want to be very careful because sometimes your fabrics can look very similar. So for fabric A, it's this one here with the haunted house and the pumpkins and the trees. So I'm going to put that here. Then my fabric C, which is our pink fabric, should have 4 of these. Then my fabric E, which are these cute little, I think they're cats, but they have like vampire teeth on them. So we have 12 of them, and then 8 of fabric F, which is the fabric with the ravens. And then you can see we have other pieces. So I have a large F triangle. So I'm going to lay that down here. Then my D square. And then you can see there's 4 different smaller squares. So I am going to lay them out again in order: A, C, D, and E. So to show you what I'm using, you can see I have them laid out here right next to my sewing machine. I also have a wool pressing mat, and I always keep a little steam fast iron. It's not plugged in yet. I don't actually use steam in it. I just press my folds every single time. So I just keep this right in my machine so I don't have to constantly move away or turn back and forth. I'm sewing on a older Singer. It is a Singer 5528, and I'm using an 8012 universal needle. That's what I've been using with batiks. If I need to, I might bump it down to a 7010. And I'm going to be sewing with this Gutermann thread. There are no quilt police. Some people swear by Orifil thread, which is cotton. This Gutermann is a polyester. I prefer polyester thread, so I've used Gutermann. I use Quilt and Clark's. Basically, I use whatever's available for my piecing. This is a blue color. You're not really going to see it. Even though these are lighter, I still don't think you're going to see it. But you still might want to pick a thread that is similar to your fabrics, and do what works best for you and your machine. I find that the polyester works best for me. So I have to thread that through. I also have some snips that I keep near me and some clips. I clip my pieces instead of pinning them, and I actually only pin when they get pretty long. So I'll show that to you as we go and kind of explain. So now let's start with our clue. Because this is clue 1 and this might be your first time doing a puzzle mystery quilt, I'm going to go a little bit in depth here. If you want just the instructions, you can jump ahead using the timestamps. So if this is your first puzzle mystery quilt, you will have your clue, and it's going to show you up here. It says this month's section. And I'm sewing a large, so you will have either large or small up here. So for the large, we have 2 sections of 1A. So see this little box here where it says 1A? That's the label of the section. And we have 2 of 1B. So now in each of these steps, it goes step by step, and it will tell you where it says like times 2. That's how many, the quantity that you're going to make of each of these. So for example, for step 1, we're going to make 2. For my tutorials, I sew up 1 block or of each section. So I always divide this number in half, or by however many different sections we're sewing. So you'll see that I will only make 1 of these as we go. That's because I also do a live on Tuesday nights on both YouTube and TikTok, and I like to sew up my cotton cuts at some points. The other thing that you should know is that these little arrows here, that is the direction that you are pressing your seams. So we will press them when we get there towards the top right. The last thing is that all seams are a 1/4 inch. A lot of people use a scant 1/4 inch. I use a full 1/4. It's just easier for me to make sure that I'm more precise. The biggest thing is making sure that your seam allowance stays accurate, which is why I do that 1/4 inch. It does tell you after you sew them together what the size should be. I absolutely never measure mine and never trim them. As long as you're using a consistent seam allowance, it will come together perfectly and your measurements will be fine. Even if they are slightly larger or slightly lower, it's really because your seam allowance might vary. So don't stress about that. So you can see we have, this is the first page, goes into the second page. So that was 1A, and then you can see section 1B starts down here. So I think I've explained all of this. If you have questions, please feel free to put them in the comments. I will try to help you as best I can. But for now, let's get sewing. Okay, so for step 1, we need to sew a small triangle F to a small triangle E, and we're making 2. So for myself, I'm making 1 of these. Fabric F is our ravens. So I lay mine out exactly like the picture shows. And fabric E is our vampire kitties. So I lay them, you can see EF just like this. Now we are going to put them right sides together. They'll match up perfectly because they are die cut. So there should be no like variance at all. If you want to pin this or clip it to hold it together, you can. I actually don't do that when they're small like this. Once we start sewing more pieces together, I will. But for right now, I just bring it to the machine just like this. And I realized that I didn't thread my top, so I'm going to do that real quick and then come back. All right, now that it's threaded, we are good to go. Make sure your tension is good. You want to sew on a scrap piece first. That way you're not ruining your blocks. So I bring this over here, and I always put my needle down first, especially when it is a triangle and kind of has a pointed end. And that is because I want to make sure that I am, that I'm not pushing my fabric down into the feed dogs. I noticed that now one of my threads is wrapped around. There we go. Okay. Yes. So I always needle down first, and I had a long armor tell me that she thinks it's best to backstitch. So I've tried to do that with all my piecing, even though I just usually do that for bags. So I've just taken 2 stitches forward, and then I'm going to do 2 stitches back. And the same thing at the end. So if you were sewing both of these, I would probably sew them both at the same time. And then I always trim my threads down as we're going, so I don't have a lot of cleanup at the end. So for this here, we are pressing towards our F fabric, which is the ravens. So from the back, I always try to give it a good press from the back and then gently open it. You don't want to tug because, especially when we're doing half square triangles, your fabric can stretch and warp. You also don't want to like iron like you're ironing a shirt. You want to press it down and then lift your iron and press again. Because if you iron back and forth, it could warp your blocks. So you'll see as we go along, mine probably won't be so perfect, but I try to keep them as straight and aligned as possible. I didn't pull that open all the way. There we go. So I'm just making sure that I press them nice. All right, so this is our step 1. I'm going to set it to the side because for step 2, we're making a flying geese. That's what it's called when you have the larger triangle and the 2 smaller on the left and the right. And we need 4 of them. So for the tutorial, I'm going to make 2. So we need 2 of our fabric F large triangles, which is our raven fabric. And again, you can see I'm laying these all out. So I'm making sure that they are going the correct way. Some people prefer to lay the whole block out first. I prefer to do it step by step. Then we need a fabric A to our top left, which is the fabric that looks very similar. So just be very mindful you're grabbing the correct ones. The other thing to be mindful of is depending on your pattern piece, you can see here that fabric F shows a dark color, but in reality for our colorway, it is light. So sometimes that has thrown me off before, so just be mindful. And then we need a fabric E, which is our vampire kitties in the small triangle to the right-hand side. And I'm going to sew both of these at the same time. So I'm right-handed, so I always start on the right. You could start with the left one if you wanted. So we're going to put this right sides together. This small triangle will match up from that top point here along the diagonal and down to the bottom right. So again, if you want to clip this or pin it, you can. Otherwise, I just bring it to the machine. And I try to hold my threads as I sew because I feel like that also helps that it won't get pressed down into the feed dogs. And when I got to the end, I just did a quick back stitch. And then instead of pulling this out and cutting the thread and then just sewing it, I'm going to sew these at the same time. So I'm going to line this second piece up and put it underneath. And that means that this acts as kind of like a leader piece. And if you're having problems with your fabric getting pushed down into the feed dogs, you could sew a scrap first and then sew your piecing. And that just kind of helps pull it through a bit easier. So I don't tend to use a leader piece, but when I was first starting quilting, I had a lot more problems with them getting pushed into my feed dogs. I think I really wasn't holding my threads. And so now I'm cutting off all these excess threads. And when you're making flying geese, you have to press this open first. If we were to put this on, we would have like a piece that's facing the wrong way. It wouldn't fold open properly. So we need to press this open first. So I always, like I mentioned, press the back and then gently open this up. And if you're having a directional print, don't worry about it. We don't know which way these blocks are going to face when we're all done. So it's okay to have your fabrics facing all different ways. It will work out in the end to have like the mixture. Okay, so now that the right hand side is pressed open, now we're putting our left hand side. So the same thing, I'm lining it up with the bottom left corner and then with the top. And because these are die cut, they should line up perfectly. And if you have trouble, you can clip these. I'm just gently bringing them over to my machine. Make sure I'm holding my thread. And now I'll do the same with the second one, making sure that I am lining it up. And these are sewing really nicely. I don't know if I've used art gallery fabrics before. It's another thing that I was excited about. It's my first time doing the Halloween and also with art gallery. So with each new puzzle mystery quilt, I like to challenge myself if I'm picking. And it just worked out that Crystal happened to choose my first choice for me. Okay, so again, we're pressing these open to the top left. So I'm gently folding this open. And you can see here that this makes our flying geese. And if we had not pressed the right hand side open, this is where it would be stuck, folded down. And you can see this comes up a little bit here. I'm not worried about that because I'm just gonna put that in the seam allowance. So it's very forgiving. You can hide a lot in your seam allowance. Okay, I'll just press this one open. Really loving these fabrics. I love Halloween and I think it's just so cute with the pink. And actually, it's a lot more purple than I realized too, which I definitely like. All right. So now for step 3, we need 2 of them. So that means for this, I'm dividing it in half. I'm taking one of our step 2s, and then I'm taking our step 1, which we sewed in the beginning, and I am lining it up to the right hand side, and our E fabric should line up. So you'll know that you have this correct because you can see the diagonal of the E fabric, and right here is the diagonal of our vampire cat fabric. So I am going to put them right sides together. They'll match up perfectly, again, because they're die cut. We haven't really changed the length of any of these. Again, you can clip them if you want. I just tend to hold it. It's not long enough yet where I feel like it will, what's it called, start to warp on me. Okay, and so for this here, you can see our arrow is pointing to the left. So we are going to press towards the left. So that means I usually like to lay this back. So this way I can hit the backhand side. And then when I gently open this, the seam allowance will already be facing the direction that it needs. It won't want to flip back over on itself. Okay, so this finishes our step 3. And if you're looking closely, you can see that there's a little dip right here. I'm, again, not worried that it's not perfectly straight. It will all match up. I'll hide it in the seam allowance. So I'm going to set that to the side. Now we're on step 4, and we need 2 of them. So I'm going to be making 1 for the tutorial. We are doing the half square triangles again. So again, I need an A fabric. I have my color card here, so I'm not accidentally messing this up. And an F fabric, which is our ravens. And this I'll have to be mindful of because they look very similar. Right? So I'm going to put them right sides together, lining them up. Again, make sure you clip them or pin them. Don't feel like you need to do it exactly how I'm doing, whatever works best for you. I pin and clip mine up till a couple quilts ago. And that's just because my confidence has grown with my quilting ability. And so for this one, we're pressing it to the bottom right, which is our F fabric, which is our raven fabric. Again, gently opening that up. Okay, that was step 4. We're now on page 2, which is step 5. And so I need my second step 2, which is our flying geese. And we need to rotate it. So you'll notice that your F fabric is pointing down. And then we are taking the step 4 and attaching it to the right hand side. So you'll know you did this correctly because your A fabric are going to form the diagonals there. Okay, now I'll put them right sides together. I accidentally slid it when I moved it over. So just making sure. And because this has a couple more than just two fabrics coming together, it's sewing much easier under my presser foot. Okay, and again for this one, our arrow is pointing towards the left, towards the flying geese. So I am going to press those seams and then gently open it up. Again, you want to make sure that you're not tugging on this, so you're not warping this. Okay, so I'm just going to move these off to the left here. Now we're on step 6. Again, we need 2 of them, so I'll be making 1. We need a E triangle and a triangle. So I have it laid out, putting them right sides together. So if you want to sew both blocks at the same time, you want to be doubling the amount that I'm doing, following those little numbers on the side. And the instructions for the large are all the same. So if you're sewing a large, even if it's not Davy Jones Locker, you could follow along. You would just have to make sure that you're grabbing the correct fabrics. Okay, and so for this, it wants to be pressed towards our E fabric, which are the vampire cats. And gently folding this open. All right, so this was step 6, and now it wants us to attach a square. So E again is the cat fabric to the top. So I'm actually going to just put it directional so the cats are facing the same way. Okay. Put that right sides together, and if you're not clipping this, just make sure that you're turning it the correct way. I cannot tell you how many times I've accidentally sewn the wrong side when it was a square like this because I didn't turn the fabric the correct way when I was bringing it to the machine. All right, and so for this one, our arrow is pointing up, so we are pressing towards that top. And again, moving it to the side because we do not need it yet. So now we're on step 8. We need a large D square. That is our bright orange fabric. And then in the top right and the bottom left, we are putting a small C triangle. So top right and bottom left. So for these, you're going to put them right sides together and you want to center it. You'll notice that the top doesn't line up all the way across and the little triangles hang over on the side. And that's okay because when this folds open, it's all going to kind of match up. So you're doing it right if you have those little bits hanging over. This is going to make what we call like, some people call it an economy block. Some people call it like a diamond in a square. There's different names for it. The flyway quilt has a lot of these. So if you were participating in flyway, this should be familiar. And for these, you need to press them open, kind of like with the flying geese, because if you don't do it now, it will cause a problem afterwards. You'll have the wrong side of the fabric. showing. Okay. And now for this one, again, we're putting it right sides together. While I'm sewing it, I'm just turning it so that way it's easier for me to align and then put under my presser foot.
That's
All right, and then again for this one, pressing the back side and gently folding it open and pressing from the front. Usually with these blocks, the seams are always pressed towards the outside. So now for step 9, we're using the same piece here, except now we're adding 2 E fabrics to the top left and bottom right. And that is our vampire kitties. So again, just laying them out first. And now I'll put them right sides together. And now you'll see that because we have those 2 pressed open, these little points line up with the edges of those that we pressed open. So that's why in the beginning it was okay to center them. You weren't doing anything wrong. And now they should line up again. So that way when they press open, it's all lined up. Right, pressing from the back and then from this front side. Yeah, and now we'll do the last triangle, putting it right sides together. Again, lining it all up. And these are time consuming, but I really like how they look. I think they look great, especially if you have like a feature fabric for your center.
going to the pen.
Right, giving it a good press, gently folding it open. Right, you can see it looks pretty nice. I'm pretty happy with it. And if you get little pieces that are kind of stuck in your seams, I try to pull them out now as I go along. Okay, that was step 9. And now I have step 10. So this is our step 9. We want to take our step 7, which is with our square, and put it to the right hand side. And you'll know you did it correct because you can see the E fabric all connects with each other. So for this, I do clip it because there is a center seam here and a center seam here. So I'm going to put them right sides together. I always turn it so I can see it, and I fold it back so I can see that center seam. And I try to line that center seam up with the point, the center of that triangle. And then clip it. And then on the right and on the left. And I just try to straighten it as best I can. So whenever there's a seam I'm lining up, I always clip it just to try to get it as accurate as possible. I really don't want it to move on me. Sometimes it does. And in that case, I either will unpick it, or if it's not too much, I don't worry about it. And that's mostly because once this is all together, you don't really notice so much. So it all depends kind of on your preference. All right, and so for this here, the arrow is pointing to the right hand side, so you are going to press to the right. So I'm going to get my seam from the back and then gently open this up. And so when it's a longer one, I definitely pick my iron up and move it around. All right, that is step 10. So now our last step, step 11. And I'm going to move my iron so I have plenty of space. Our step 10 is staying in the center like this. And we need to join step 3 to the top. And that is our first one with the flying geese. You'll know it's correct because your E fabric is lined up here. And then you need to add step 5 to the bottom. And again, you'll know this is correct because your A fabric will be lined up. And it's very similar to the raven. So just make sure that you are paying attention. You can sew your top or the bottom first. I'm going to start with the bottom just because it's closest to me. And your seams should be pressed in opposite directions. We have one seam to line up here. So I'm going to put them right sides together. And this is why I'm doing it towards me, so I can kind of fold this back and make sure my seams are right next to each other. And they're what we call nested. One's pressed to the left, one's pressed to the right. And once I have them aligned, then I go through and click what's left. So it's way more important that that seam is matched up than the ends, at least for me anyways. Okay. And then just be very mindful when you're bringing this, as again, it's a very long piece. My thread keeps wanting to wrap around my foot, so I need to be mindful of that. And I put my hands very close, but if you have a stiletto or something pointy to kind of help push it through and make sure that your seams are not folded over on themselves, definitely use that. Okay, and our arrows are pointing down for this. So that means I'm pressing from this back side here and then gently folding this open. And my seam matched up really, really well. I'm very happy with that. And you can see the point of my economy block really well. I'm super happy. Sometimes this gets cut off or this is not so perfect, but it turned out pretty good. And again, you can see it's not perfectly straight here. It's a little bit off to the left. I don't trim that up. I just hide it in my seam when we get to start putting these together. All right, so now we need to attach the top. That's our last step. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put it right sides together so I know it's facing the correct way, and then turn it towards me. And again, that's just so I can make sure that I peel this back, line up my seams really well. They're nested, one's facing one direction and the other's going in the opposite. And again, I can see that this overhangs a little bit on that side, but I'm not worried about it. Okay, and then for this one, our seam is going to be pressed towards the top. So again, I can give it that nice, good press from the back. And then gently open this. And I'm really happy with it. My seam here is lined up perfectly. You can see a little bit of fabric here for the point, but nothing where I would go back and unpick this just to get it closer. Or I guess I could sew like a little bit of a deeper seam allowance, but honestly, you're not going to notice that once the quilt's all together. And you can see here that this also overhangs a little bit. I guess if you wanted, you could definitely trim that. It does give you the measurements that it should measure, but I don't worry about that. What happens is when I start combining these, I just align my seam allowance here and sew that into the seam allowance. So this finishes up our first block. This is our 1A. So you should have 2 of these, and I highly recommend putting like a little sticky note on them and labeling them, because when we get to month 10, it will tell us like, so 1A to 3B. So it just helps to do that. So I'm gonna set it to the side and we can start on the next one. All right, so now we're gonna start our section 1B. You can see it looks like a lot of patchwork. So our directions start down here. For step 1, we are making 4 of them. So for the tutorial, I am going to be making 2. So you always want to follow these numbers if you want to do all of them at once. So I need 2 fabric F, which are our raven, and 2 of our fabric A, which are our haunted house one that looks very similar. For flyaway, I'm doing batiks, and it's so hard to tell which side I should put up. So I'm kind of happy to be able to tell right side from wrong side. And again, these should line up perfectly. I'm not clipping them. I'm just going to carry them over. And I'm going to sew both at the same time. So again, back stitching here. And then back stitching at the end of that one, and then adding this one in. And sometimes my feed dogs like the presser foot pressure is a lot, and it wants to shift my fabric. But it's not something I can adjust on my machine. So I just try to be really mindful of it. Again, just trimming between each piece. And for this, we are pressing up towards our F fabric. So that's our raven fabric. So just making sure that I have put these the correct way. And gently opening this up. These fabrics are so cute. If you are sewing Davy Jones, let me know what you think. Or if you're doing another colorway, how are you liking your fabrics? I'm very, very happy with these. All right. Now for step 2, we need a small A square to the right of step 1. And again, that is our haunted house fabric. So I'm just lining these up and putting them right sides together. And because it's die cut, it will line up perfectly. And the same thing for this one. And definitely making sure I'm being mindful, especially because they are very similar background colors, that I don't accidentally sew the wrong side. I can't tell me how many times I've done that and not noticed until the very end, which is the worst. Okay. And so for this, our fabrics are going to be pressed to the right hand side towards our square. I love the little pink ghosts. And the same thing for this one here. All right, and because they're both the same exact thing, I'm going to stack them on top of each other and set them to the side. So now for step 3, we need to make 4 of these. And it says in steps 3 through 8, you're making 2 parts that look identical. However, the pressing directions are different. So there's some extra arrows in here to kind of show you which way things are going. So just be mindful of that. And because there's 4, I'm going to be sewing 2. So I need 2 C squares, and C for us is the pink. And then 2 D squares, which is our orange above it. And we're just putting these right side together because they're both squares. It doesn't matter. You don't have to worry about flipping it on the wrong side. And the same thing here, putting on right sides together. And for both of these, we're pressing towards the C fabric, which is our pink fabric. So now that I have both of these, for step 4, we're rotating one of our step 3. So turning one of them upside down. And so now we have like a checkerboard or four patch. So what I'm doing is I am going to put these right sides together and turn it towards me so I can, again, our seams are pressed opposite directions. They should nest perfectly. I like folding them back on itself so I can really see and then clipping them. And I just find clips easier. You can pin whatever works best for you. Pretty laid back when it comes to sewing. I feel like you have to find out what works best for you and your machine. All right, and then so this is going to get pressed to the left, our seams. So I'm going to give it a good press from behind. And then gently open this up. And you want to make sure that your C fabric is in the top right and bottom left. Perfect. So that finishes our step 4. Now for step 5, we're taking one of our step 2s and attaching it to the top. So you don't have to flip anything around. Your A square should be on the right. Your half square triangle should be on the left-hand side. I just paused because I wanted to make sure. I was worried that I accidentally flipped this around, but I did not. Okay, so now I'm going to put them right sides together. And again, turning it towards me. And if you pressed your seams correctly, they should nest. So my top one is going to the left and my bottom is going to the right. Again, just clipping it.
Good. Art.
Right? And for this, we're pressing our seams to the top. So gently folding this open. Oh, and I'm so happy they're lining up perfectly. Like this matched up so nicely, and so did this one here. This never happens to me. I'm usually off a little bit, so I'm very, very happy. But again, this is like my 6th or 7th puzzle mystery quilt, and I noticed that I get better with each time. So really happy to see that progress. And you can see there's like a little piece right here. This is what I mean about kind of cleaning it up as we go. Okay, and I'm going to move this to the side because now we need to do the same thing kind of like we did up here in step 2, but now they're going to be left to right for step 6. So I need 2 D squares, and to the right of them I need 2 C squares. Okay, and then again, putting them right sides together. I love that everything is just cut and ready to sew, and that because it's cut with a die, like everything lines up perfectly. And the same thing down here.
Good.
And for both of these, it's being pressed to the left. So I'm going to put that so my orange fabric is facing up. I'm going to press the back and then gently fold them open. And the same thing down here, pressing from the back and gently folding this open. Now we're on step 7. It says rotate 1 step 6 so that the C is on the left and join it to the bottom of a second step 6. So because I have these both together, I'm literally just turning this around here. So I'll have 1 C in the right and 1 C in the bottom left. And again, we're making that 4 patch. I'm going to put them right sides together, making sure I can match up my seams here. Have 1 going to the left, 1 going to the right. We'll see if this one stays as lined up so nicely. And wherever the seam is, I don't pull off the clip until the very last second, hoping that it won't shift. Okay, and so for this one, we are pressing our seams down towards the bottom. Okay, so hit that there and gently open it. Yeah, they look so nice. All right, so happy with how this looks. And now for step 8, we're doing a very similar thing. We're taking our flying geese again and attaching it on top. We don't have to flip anything around. Our A box or A square is on the right hand side. So I'm going to put them right sides together and then just turn it only so I can see which way everything is going. All right, and clipping across. All right, and so for this one here, our seams are being pressed down. So that's a little bit different. I'm pressing from the back side. You can see that my thread got kind of sucked up and did one of those like a bird's nest. So I'm just gonna trim it out right there and then gently open this. So on this one, our seams are being like pressed up. On this side, they are pressed down. That is step 8. And so now we need to join step 5 to the left of step 8. So I can just keep these exactly the way they are. And this is what she means about the extra arrows. So these are usually she just tells you which side to go, left or right. When we combine these, she has these 2 black arrows here, making sure that you have the seams going correctly. So I'm going to attach these 2 together, and we have 2 points that need to match up. So I am going to put them right sides together, turn it towards me, and then just make sure these seams are nested. So I'm going to start on the left, make sure that they are nested. One's going one way, the other's going the opposite. If your seams are accurate, they should line up perfectly without you having to tug or do any type of finagling. And so I'm just lining up the rest of the straight edge and going to bring it to the machine. Okay, and then for this one here, it's all going to be pressed towards the left. So making sure I catch the whole seam here and gently opening up on itself. And I think it looks pretty good. This one here lined up perfectly. This one might be a tiny bit off. And sometimes when the pieces or the block gets kind of large, I'll give the other seams a good little press at the very end like this. All right, so this finishes up our 1B block. You should have 2 of these, and then go ahead, make sure that you label them. And something that I do to keep everything organized is I fold them up so they'll fit back in the bag that they came from. And I'll put my blocks back into the month. So not only will they have like a little sticky note saying like 1A, 1B, they'll also be in the same clue bag with the label that they came from originally. And I find that's very helpful, especially at the end when we're putting everything together. All right, so we have just finished up month 1. We have 2 blocks. We have 2 of 1A and 2 of 1B. I'm so excited. I love everything about it. I love the fabrics. I love how it looks so far. I hope you enjoyed the tutorial. If you did, please consider subscribing or giving a thumbs up. It does help my channel grow. I appreciate it so much, and I'll see you next time for month 2. Bye.